Okay, so now we're gonna look at how sessions might be exploited. So if we have a unique session ID on a web app, then most likely every other user has a session ID as well. So as an attacker, maybe we want to get session IDs of other users to elevate privileges or to steal data or something like that. So we can do this in basically 4 ways. We can either try to intercept the session ID somehow, we can try to predict the session ID, or maybe brute force through a lot of session IDs and see if one works, or we can fixate a session ID. We're gonna see examples for all 4 of these attacks. Well, interception might be done, for example, with ARP spoofing. Now, what is ARP spoofing? Well, if I'm in a local area network, ARP spoofing means I guide all traffic of a user to the internet over my laptop. How can I do that? Well, a user has a default gateway that he uses to talk to the internet. So if on my computer I issued a command IPR, IP route, it shows me all routes I have set, and the first one is the route default via a specific IPv4 address. So every time my computer wants to connect to the internet, for example, to talk to a website, it forwards the packets to this IP address, which is my local gateway that is connected to the internet somehow. So, since a network usually consists of switches, of hubs, and I'm not connected directly to the gateway, I have a problem. I only know the IP address of my gateway because routing works on IP level. But hubs and switches, like on this level, they don't work with IP addresses. They don't know what an IP address is. They work with MAC addresses. So I have to translate the IP address of my gateway to a MAC address somehow in order to be able to contact it. And how is that done? Well, it's done usually with ARP, Address Resolution Protocol. So my gateway, I have the IP address. The IP address is layer 3. And I need to translate somehow this IP address, or I need to find the MAC address of the IP address. So I need to translate from the IP address to the MAC address. The MAC address works on layer 2. So switches work on layer 2, routers work on layer 3. How is that done? Well, it's done usually via ARP. How does it work? Well, as a user, I want the MAC address of my gateway. So how does ARP does that? Well, the user just sends a broadcast to everybody on the network saying who has IP address blah 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 of my gateway, and then the gateway answers with I have MAC address this and that, and then the user knows the MAC address of the gateway and can contact the gateway. Well, ARP spoofing now means the user asks everybody on the network, hey, I have IP address this and that. Who has this IP address? What's your MAC address? And we also, because we're on the network, we're in the local area network, we get this request and we reply, okay, I'm your gateway with this IP address. My MAC address is blah 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 evil, and the user has no chance of knowing if that's actually the real MAC address of the gateway. So from now on, he's gonna send all his packets that he wants to send to the internet to our MAC address. And we then forward it to the actual gateway because we know the real MAC address of the gateway, and it forwards it to the internet. So every packet that the user sends, every request he does, every HTTP request goes over our laptop or our computer. So we obviously can sniff if it's plain HTTP. We can sniff all cookies, so we have all the sessions. This becomes increasingly difficult with TLS connections, because nowadays a lot of HTTP traffic is encrypted, but under some circumstances it's still possible. We'll look at these circumstances a bit later in the lecture.